You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your very excited host. I think, I'm jinxing it because every podcast I'm saying that, but genuinely, I'm super excited for this one. I just came back from governmental paperwork as I'm processing again my visa for China. And I don't know if you know, but I love that country so much. I love the culture so much. And I am so excited that I'm going to be back there. I'm going to be teaching, learning, drinking tea. I'm really, anything for the tea. I'll go anywhere in the world. But I have an incredible group of family, people, friends, teacher students that we're going to meet. And I'm back into China very, very soon. And I'm so excited. So I'm charged with the energy of this. Besides, we're recording this podcast in a very interesting period, astrologically, metaphysical, Vedic. And I have a guest that I have met thousands of people in my life, not thousands of astrologers, very few Vedic experts. But our guest today has this signature of ancientness. I don't know if I can say another word. I'm crafting new words into existence. Ancientness weaving into modern times the fundamentals of ancient Vedic practices, astrology, and just very scientific pointers that helps us pierce the veils of this thread of life. So let me introduce her to you. By the way, those of you who want to join us on YouTube, I will appreciate if you follow us, click the bell, link the link, all the things that the YouTubers, influencers talk about. I ask you please to support us. Remember, we're a philanthropic-based podcast. We don't sell anything. We don't do advertisements. We are self-supported. Our company, the La Flor Teachings, sponsors it. We are produced by Brilliant Futures Productions. And so we're doing our best to give the pure, raw clarity and wisdom of our guests to our audience. So any help you can do to help us, help you, and keep going, keep the Spirituality Now podcast going is highly welcome in our heart and our soul. So my guest today, and you should see it, you should go watch her on YouTube because she's gorgeous. Her name is Brooke Underwood. And nearly 15 years ago, Brooke started university in Middle America, but she had a spiritual awakening experience before her first semester that changed the trajectory of her life. She has dedicated her life to uncover what it truly means to live a supernatural life in alignment with her Dharma, purpose, duty, service, and offer the most effective remedies, healing techniques, and counseling to the aid of us humans in our liberation, which in Sanskrit is called moksha, which I adore that word. It is not possible for Brooke to share with us everything about her journey, even though I'm going to focus on extracting some of those juices that brew Brooke into existence. And just now, recently, she's called to do the work she does today, which includes a lot of the Vedic practices, and she'll talk to us about that. Because of the contrast of her first 18 years of life and the mirror that this gave to her. So without further ado, beloved Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So much, Yvonne.
And your voice is so exquisite. I always talk to my dear friend who is incredible at voice, Grace Terry, about the frequency of your voice. It's so deep, so ancient. Whoever doesn't see you on video is going to think, like I did, that you are 1,000-something years old. Have you ever been told that?
I have, since I was very young, that I was an old soul, that I was many years beyond my physical age. It's the nature of the planet Saturn that when you have strong Saturn aspects, like you, Yvonne, too, as well, you are an old soul and you have this inherent maturity, whether you can express that, respond to it, or take on that role early on. depends, but there's an inherent gift of maturity and understanding of suffering early
Mm,
on with
whoa.
Saturn dominant charts.
Wow, absolutely. And, I had the privilege to go through one of your coaching, mentorship, supernatural journeys. And it was like a reencounter, right? For me, it was like, Brooke, hello. I'm so glad to be back in your sphere of wisdom, in your sphere of consciousness. And since then, I truly have become an advocate of yours. I'm like, I don't know why, with very few people, and especially very high evolved beings and spiritual teachers, I become like this archetype of the mama bear. It just shows really strong on me. I'm like, nobody touches them. I think, in another lifetime, either I was a bodyguard or one of those one jeans warriors that it was like, happily slaying heads, all with the non-violence thing, just to protect those who are here in the path of wisdom. Saturn speaking. So, beloved Brooke, uh, we're going to name this podcast, Living a Supernatural Life. And the reason why is because I feel and have witnessed a little bit of that essence in you. And I just want to clarify something, because I know a lot of people tell us and you of old souls. And I love that people say old souls, young spirits, but I'm not only focusing on old souls. I think you have a wise soul. So for that, you had to brew into a lot of mud, as the lotus flower does. And I recently saw, and we're going to go right into the core of it. And I know we're recording in a Venus retrograde period, right? And we'll talk about
Just about. Mm-hmm.
okay. And I just saw a beautiful. I think this is one of the most moving, touching, honest, real things I've seen in a lot of years. You playing the drums to your mother. And I think
Mm.
it all began. And so tell me a little bit about the journey of you as a child, very briefly, and of you and the mother energy, because I think that there is no supernatural without the energy of the mother. Mm.
We are going straight to the root. Yes. So, as a child, I was definitely very shy, very observant, very yin, and my voice was cloaked, but my body had a form of expression. My mother was a bit of a gift of the goddess Saraswati, which is also the goddess who rules eloquence in speech and in embodiment and in right conduct. And my mother nurtured my gifts as a dancer. And she also nurtured that of music for my brothers. She was a flutist, and she was so passionate about gifts and cultivating gifts and expression, and that being a gateway to empowerment. And so I'm indebted to my mother for having that wisdom of Saraswati and saying, I'm going to give my child the gift of expression by nurturing what is organically arising from her. And I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to do my own mompreneur type of, home nurturance through having her own business. She was a coupon queen in the 80s and 90s. That's how she supported my dance, through trading coupons, from buying goods in the stores, heavily discounted, so that she could pay for dance classes by selling the goods that she bought at a higher price. So she was very much a Venus trade woman as well, which Venus represents the goddess. So I really was gifted by these very much nurturing powers of my mother, especially through dance, and how much dance really gave me the platform to digest, alchemize, and begin to understand my emotional body earlier on than many of my peers that I noted in the healing arts or in even the yogic tantric world as well. That I had this finessed cultivation with my body since I was 2.5 years old. And so I was gifted this ability to cultivate in deep inner connection to my inner landscape. Even if I wasn't aware of this, I was able to move through a lot of anger, a lot of rage, because I did grow up in an abusive home, in a very strenuous, intense situation, um, in the family dynamic. But dance, I could go to class, I could move with the music, I could move my emotions, I could go to a dance competition and let emotions and tears run through me when I would be witnessing a woman on the stage or a group of dancers performing and expressing what I couldn't name because my voice was very much repressed and closed down. Um, so this was part of my mythic journey early on that I praise my mother for and I thank her for, despite, of course, the all the things we go through with our mother, the betrayal wound, the abandonment wound, the rejection wound, all of these things mean not so much to me. But what has really been the gift is honoring this joy, this effervescent delight, this experimental, improvisational side that my mother had that she nurtured and gave me to develop.
Wow, Brooke. I want to pay a moment of tribute to you and to everyone else listening to this, because to reach a point in life when you truly can honor the source that comes through a father or a mother, regardless of the challenges, the muddy experiences that we are going to have one way or another in our different karmic levels, right? In the different levels of our experience. But to reach a point, and you're so young in the physical form, and that speaks a lot about your cultivation to be able to honor them. There is a virtue that I adore. It's called filial piety, and it's a gift,
Yes.
and it's very rare. I see it in my daughter. I've seen it in you, and I've seen it in few of the living awakened teachers of our time. I see it in a Zen teacher. His name is Mado Moore. That just recently appeared. His wisdom in my life, and it has engrabbed my soul in a very interesting, virtuous way. But you have that, and I think that in this moment, as you share this, and everybody else think about this, when you truly honor the source where you come from, you honor the source of where you are going into and growing as. And, as a mother, I'm so proud for you, because I know that right now your physical mother, even though she represents the goddesses, right? All of our fathers and mothers, an aspect of the archetypal living. But I know your mother right now has dementia, correct?
Yes, she started getting early, rapid onset dementia when I was 22 years old, and she was 57 years old. So after a couple years, I graduated college. She came to me and said, I don't know what's happening, but I'm losing my memory. Um, and there began a huge journey of descent on her part, but also at the same time, this parallel journey of me awakening to my clairvoyance, to my spiritual fire,
Mm.
to these very interesting mystical moments as she essentially lost her mind. I gained my mind.
Wow.
And so we had this parallel story that is actually shown in many goddess mythology, and even in the mythology of Inanna and Ereshkigal, of Demeter and Persephone, of losing a daughter to the underworld and also finding the courage to connect to her, to go after her, but not in a way that you think is linearly going to happen. I wish I could have helped and intervened, and I tried many times to intervene to help her, but it was not happening karmically in this lifetime. So, how I moved through the grief and through the long drawn out process of loss was to the heart of the mother, to the heart of Shakti, of this divine power that is represented in many cultures as a great mother goddess of the womb of all existence, as this place of darkness and stillness where I could retreat, restore, and begin to cultivate a part of my mind that essentially would heal me in the process of my mother going through her own physical suffering.
Wow. Oh, I think this is one of the deepest podcasts I've ever had. I'm I don't. I think this is 200 or 100 and something because your podcast. We're recording in July. I don't even remember the month right now, and this is coming end of August or September. But I think this is one of the deepest, most rawest expressions of the truth that cannot be expressed. And I love
Mm,
something that you just said, that the descent of your mother and her losing her mind was kind of you, the awakening of yours, the ascension of yours, right? Is the descent. And that, there is so much mythology in China that I adore, where it says that when a mother, really, is descending, it will, her cultivation of eons of time will be passed to the child, to the daughter, to the son that is willing to receive the cultivation and has the courage, which I really feel you have, Brooke. I think that the spiritual path is a path of bravery and courage. Whoever says that, oh, being spiritual is so kind, they have no clue what's like, or very nice, is very comfortable. They have no clue what spirituality is, and I don't blame them. It's this a true journey of self cultivation, spirituality, and devotional service to others. It's a brutal honesty, brutal bravery and courage. That's incredibly. That's where joy is hidden, in the brutality, in the grief, in the sorrow, in the messiness, in the mud. Right. So this path of the mother, this path of her descent and your ascent, her losing her mind and you gaining your mind, is like a shared cultivation. It will pass on to you whatever she cultivated in lifetimes because of your courage to serve. And I will talk about that in a moment. It is where I feel we honor our ancestors, where we honor our father and our mother. And maybe they couldn't do it right. And maybe they were abusive, and maybe they had their own sorrows and grief and karma. But our ability to do something different with what they render and lend us is where it heals the whole aspect of our loyalties, our legacies, and our future generations. So, Brooke, taking this courage and taking this awakening and taking this experience for you, tell me how you arrived to the Vedic world.
mm. My heart is just so activated. Thank you for that reflection and part of a Chinese understanding of the relationship with mother. I've yet to hear that, so I feel very touched by that, Yvonne. Thank you so much. When it came to following my inspiration, I really wanted to honor my ethnic ancestral roots because this was part of the mother mystery with my own mother. Because as she started to go down in her disease, so to speak, my brother realized that we were available to receive Italian citizenship through my mother's mother, who was an Italian immigrant. And so one of the last things I did with my mother was to fly with her to the Chicago Italian embassy to get our citizenship with her present. She didn't know what was going on. She almost botched the whole thing because she already had dementia, and they can be sticklers when it comes to citizenship there at the embassy. And this was a gift and something of my heritage that I too was inspired to honor. So I started with looking at Greco Roman mythology, goddess mythology, priestess mythology, teachers who had Italian roots, who were interested in reviving Italian priestessing or witchcraft, things of these nature that I wasn't privy to at all before, age 22. I didn't believe in astrology. I didn't really understand or believe magic or alchemy or anything of this nature. I was a bit of a rationalist, but I also always had a mystical heart and a passion for God. Orthodoxy, actually, Christian Orthodoxy, Russian Orthodoxy captured my heart before I had this awakening with Ma, with Shakti, with the goddess, that would lead me into looking for the goddess in all religions. But beforehand, I had this very deep mystical rapport with Christian Orthodoxy and that lineage, perhaps because my mother was a Christian, who's to say. But I decided that after I had a visitation from the Dark Mother, that I didn't know what this was. The Dark Mother came to me in meditation and said, God is a Black woman. And I thought, okay, what does that mean? So I researched, what is God is a Black woman? What is this? And all of a sudden, everything from the Black Madonna to Kali to Durga came up. And I had this whole pathway to understanding spirituality, the Divine Mother, the archetype and the journey of a sacred woman stepping up to the role to serve the priestess. I had never heard of the priestess before, but I discovered it. So all of this stirred me up for years. And I went deep into it, as I often do. And I know you do too, Yvonne, passionately, and just going to the very roots of traditions and ways in which I can utilize the tradition to apply to my healing practice, not only for myself, but for my clients. But after a while, I started to just take a break from them. I needed to open up to something that would hold me, that would protect me in a different caliber of consciousness. And that's when I really was blessed with a non-dual Shakta Tantra teacher, Laura Amazzoni, and I got initiated into a goddess path in the Eastern Tantric tradition that helped me through the most difficult time of my mother's disease, that I surrendered to truly being held by the mother. And so it was through this tantric tradition and my development in my relationship to the Divine Mother through this tradition that all of a sudden these Vedic karmas started to awaken. I started understanding things in a different level. It's no longer astrological Western archetypes about the divine feminine or the divine masculine or reality in a nutshell. Those archetypes weren't speaking to me as strong. And all of a sudden, I opened up into this world of Shakti, divine feminine expression and consciousness that was just this rainbow type of reality that I've been in love with ever since.
Wow. How do you mind me asking you how old are you?
I'll be 33 this August.
Of course, like I mean, it's always like the 33 year. You know, when I was 33, and I don't want to take this podcast to tell about my story. I have a tendency to do that, right? But at 33, I wrote a book called The Divine Mother, and I remember her calling. I remember her summoning. It really felt like a summoning. It really felt, even though I have been in connection with the Divine Mother, that was my first encounter with God as the Virgen of Guadalupe in Mexico, is the Holy Mother of Guadalupe. But there's something about the 33-year-old. There's something about the power of cultivation, and there's something about a mother's descent. My mother was diagnosed when I was 7 with multiple sclerosis, and from there it was deeper, deeper, deeper into the mud. That's why I understand you. That's why, I can relate in a way that is a little bit more transcendental than just the typical narratives and stories. So I'm sorry for your mom, and I can understand. No, this is a deep initiation. This is a deep calling of the Divine Mother and the awakening of the Shakti within, the pure, pristine fire of the Divine Feminine that I feel so much in you. And it's such a blessing, Brooke. It's such a blessing for me. Now I'm 20 years older than you. Well, 19. 19. At this age, we protect the linear, non-existing years. But for me, in this stage, which I am, hopefully crafting and carving myself to be a good ancestor for the future generation and a good woman elder in my years to come. So I'm 20 years ahead of you, but not ahead of your wisdom. Listening to you gives me, as a soul, a lot of joy and a lot of hope that the path of the divine continues, regardless of the suffering, of the griefs, of the conundrums that we face in humanity. Because some of you, like you have the courage to carry on the staff of the fire of the Shakti energy. So thank you for that. So I can tell about the Christianity aspect. I can tell about the religious aspect, the Divine Mother, the Devis, the Kalis, the whole emanation of the Divine Mother representation appearing in your life. And when that has been happening and is brewing you into this incredible priestess, how important would you say? Because for me, it's day and night to be initiated in a lineage of such. Because I can tell the difference between people that just accumulate data of spirituality. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their path, and the path will find them and they'll become them eventually. But how important it is to be initiated in a lineage, bro, that can help you help others in their own initiation path.
It's quintessential. It's not only psychologically harmonizing these subtle natural forces, but it's also a veil of protection. And I wouldn't be able to serve and do the level of work that I do without this lineage as a healer. I have a constitution. I'm quite vata. I'm airy. And I can take on stress really easily. And something that can hold me in a larger force field, that I can drink from the well, that I can be in kula, in community, that I can practice, that I can ping pong all these mysterious manifestations and synchronicities in my dreams, in my client work, in my waking reality. It's so I don't feel like a mad woman in some ways, but also positively, enriched that I have this access to consciousness that I would have been very intimidated by otherwise. And I think probably less inclined to ferociously pursue the truth as I do now. So I feel it's essential for the heart, but it's also essential for the body and for the health, and to keep you in integrity with your head above your heart, above your belly, and to know if you fall off the horse, if you have a moment of ignorance or imperfection, or just unknowingly say, act, think, behave in a way that there's further cultivation. You can also lean on the system for empowerment and healing, and not go into the neurosis of the mind so much. That I think I see other people who are used to therapy or Western psychology, they're not so inclined to connect to the animistic side of reality, that I find these non-dual tantric lineages, and even so much Vedic lineages too, in my experience, have this access to the inanimate reality and the subtle field of manifestation.
Wow. I think you're giving me an awesome master class here. It's so beautiful and you're so eloquent and clear. And I love that we are talking about the importance of initiation. And I love that you use the word quintessential, because there is a different texture that weaves your reality. And what you said, if you fall off the horse, it's the lineage, it's the initiation, it's having that structural invisible line that holds you so strong that the bounce back is not you alone, it's back in line, backing what people call, there's so much talk about alignment, but alignment is truly is this lineage, your ancestors, the teachers before us, the great work before us for us to brew ourselves into who we are right now, keeps us up. And it gives you wings when you feel broken. It gives you the strength to keep going. It is unbelievable the invisible forces that exist in the power of self cultivation and initiation. So, Brooke, so you do work of the Magdalene, of Vedic astrology, you support women. Tell me a little bit about how you work, because I really highly going to recommend to people by experience, not by rah 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 or just because Brooke is granting us the gift of her time here in this podcast, which supports us to keep going and keep sharing for the community a diversity which is still unity in diversity of pure spiritual practical teachings that are used anciently for the ever growing modern times, but that require foundational principles that can really give us roots into this incredible future, which is now a healthy roots, not any root. Right now, spirituality is such sometimes a mockery, right? Anybody is spiritual, if you post a picture of you meditating on Instagram, that's not spirituality. Spirituality is brutal, and it's also really joyful. So tell me a little bit, how did you brew all of these beautiful, empowering work that you do, and how do you work with people? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's the brew, indeed, the brew of all these pathways of empowerment that I've cultivated, that I'm continuously cultivating, that I'm learning, that I'm doing my due diligence as a researcher, as an oracle intuitive, that I offer to my clients in Vedic astrology sessions, in relationship empowerment Vedic astrology sessions, in one-on-one mentoring. I go through the chart as a lens of divine inspiration, as a way in which we can see, feel into, and illuminate energetic blocks that may not have been seen or given the love and light that they desire to the point that I sit with the client. So there's a tenderness in going about the way in which, I shine a light on the hidden, in the unseen, and also start to bring forth the truth, the true nature of the individual in front of me, which is usually a visionary entrepreneur or sorts. Those are often my people, those like yourself, Yvonne, who are carving out a radical way of living, of loving, of entrepreneurship, whether it's a spiritual based business or nonprofit or a crypto business or something, like real estate. I work with all types of entrepreneurs who have this energy of a visionary and heart of service. And so by then embracing the gifts, the Dharmic codes, the purpose codes in the chart, while also illuminating the energetic blocks and the patterns that may have caused frustration or are simply blind spots to this point in time, we then start to break the bread and go into the deeper alchemy of embodiment practices, of somatic-based integration practices, of unifying what the mind is saying, what the heart is feeling, what the gut is intuiting, so that the body is really alchemized. I call my process body alchemy, and for women, womb alchemy, because there's so much power in really letting go of this excess energetic weight for a woman that's literally in her physical womb or womb space, if she doesn't currently have a womb, and energetically, things like past lovers, things like past traumas, things like failures or desires for success, grasping onto the past, grasping onto the future, anything that takes us out of the present moment. We go into this deep energy alchemy process, and I do a little hypnotherapy with a little somatic tantric coaching, and of course the mindset element with astrology and additional contemplative prompts and ways to perceive in reality with a different orientation, because I find how you're orienting on a day-to-day is one of the deepest roots that we can cultivate. Even if we don't have a lineage behind us, if we can begin to orient our perspective in a more infinite and abundant mindset, and integrate the dual nature of the suffering, the brutality, the tenderness in every moment with the joy, the inspiration, the love, then all of a sudden we become these supernatural people that can withstand anything, and still be in our virtuous self.
Wow. This is how we become the supernatural people that we can withstand everything. I think that, is a spiritual mic drop, however you call it, mental mindset. That's the power. That's embodiment right there. That's alignment right there. That's an incredible spiritual, rich pursuit. And I love that you just gave some hope for people that even if they don't have a lineage, I've been blessed and initiated in so many lineages, but I always come back into these practices of, the send, the lineage of truth, of divine truth. And I love that you just gave hope for people, like just orient yourself into a more aligned way, in a more blissful way, and a more abundant way. You truly have that ability to help others, like dissolve the blocks that we think that are based on cement, and you turn them into sugar, with your practices and with your astrology. I love that you use astrology as a pointer for redirection, not as a pointer of like determination, right? This doesn't determine, this guides you. I absolutely adore and respect that of you. And this was Brooke. I think we're going to close here because the last thing that you said, can become supernatural that can withstand everything, is it's a greatest pursuit. My soul is on fire, and I'm so grateful for you. So, just to close, beloved Brooke, we're going to make sure we're going to add your Instagram, your website, your Facebook. We are in charge of that, so you don't have to say it all over again. So people can reach out to you, and you have free. Sometimes you offer free services too on Fridays that I love when I can to join. Tell us a little bit about that, and then after, if you have a little blessing that you would like to give to the audience today, before we say goodbye.
Divine. Yes. Most Fridays, which is the day of Venus, the day of love, the day of art, inspiration, healing, and the goddess, I offer either intuitive community readings in my Zoom group that just meets on Fridays, or you can catch us sometimes in Wealth Priestess Society, my free Facebook group, where there's tons and tons of empowerments and ways to connect into the mystery, and to also enhance your business in this feminine directed yinward way, as I find that many women are struggling with burnout and existential business crises because she has gone against her physiological nature. And this is something with doing the womb healing work, embracing this path of the priestess, that all of a sudden our body becomes more supple, our heart becomes more soft. Stress isn't, for dinner, lunch, and breakfast all the time. And we can accomplish things at the same speed, but with this deep grace, this deep trust, this deep surrender that I find to be the feminine divine in her exaltation. So you can catch me there. You can also find me often giving workshops and master classes. So if you'd like to join my email list, all things from Vedic astrology secrets, different ways to empower yourself in relationship and business, in healing, but also ways to really do the identity alchemy that's needed to take yourself from one place to another. I really believe in the embrace of the ego, not this ego annihilation, this I am nothing, I don't, need anything, I don't deserve anything, that sometimes we can get in this spiritual trap around. especially if we're oriented into transcendental wisdom or transcendental practices. So I do a lot of coaching around identity alchemy and, right relationship with your ego so that you can create change and you can believe in yourself in this unshakable and victorious way that will, again, create the field for manifestations, for opportunities, and for you to stay super grounded like an iron rod in what you want and what you're here to create in this life, because we have so many distractions and so many, energetic hooks that can get us in our mindset, that can get us in our health, that can just be in the field, that can sabotage our greatness. With that said, the blessing that I'd love to offer is a blessing of devotion, as when this podcast is going to be released will be in the end of a Venus retrograde cycle. Venus will retrograde July 22nd until September 3rd, but we really finish up this cycle October 7th, which is actually the beginning around this date of the goddess festival Navaratri in India and Nepal. And with this, I just ask for each person who is on this path of awakening, who is desiring to be in the field of love and support of this divine consciousness, to be ongoingly inspired in something, whatever that is. Maybe it's your work, maybe it's tending to your garden, maybe it's you going to Qigong class, maybe it's being in prayer every morning. Whatever it is, devote yourself to it, and may you be inspired to continuously cultivate a long burn of a relationship with your heart's desire and what inspires you to be of service that truly connects you to your expression of love. So may it be so, and may all be blessed.
Oh, Jema, thank you, thank you, thank you so much from my heart to yours. Thank you, everyone, for watching, hearing. We're going to make sure to put all the links, everything for Brooke. I highly recommend you have an experience of this energy with her. It's been really helpful for me personally and privately, and also for some of my friends, and I can witness that in the world. Thank you, beloved Brooke. I send you my love. To your mama, infinite blessings to that spirit, and as a mother that I am, I'm so proud of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, love. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Same channels, all over where podcasts are. Please follow, like, share, and I will see you next time. Un besito. Adios. We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.